And if you don't have the discipline every single day, crossing that bridge of discipline, you don't cross that bridge, then you're just going to be on the side of failure. Really, successful people are just those who triumph through the failures and eventually live to talk about it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Ask the Experts with Alka. I am always amazed of bringing on amazing entrepreneurs who are who are taking massive actions, who are making a dent in the planet to what they are doing today. And I am bringing on my good friend, Dr. Obom Bowen. But without further ado, thank you so much for joining in. So today's episode is about mindset and how we can leverage and the challenges that we are facing today. How can we overcome those challenges and be great? So before I bring on my friend, my guest for today, how did I get started in my journey of podcast? Now, I love empowerment, and as a fitness as an owner of a fitness studio, I ran a very successful studio, and me and my team, we empowered clients to really take home and leverage on them, not only just a physical strength, but also mental and emotional. And we were amazed as to how the clients, how they truly transitioned. So empowering and empowerment is truly where I am passionate about. And I've had amazing wins, but I've also had failures in my life. And as I like to always say, that it's in the failures that we see the success. It's the path that we truly see ourselves becoming. So this is how my podcast journey started, and Ask the Experts with Alka. I have my good friend, the expert, Dr. Obom Bowen. Dr. Obom, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, Alka. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. As you were sharing, I kept going back and I'm like, yeah, she is so right. It is really successful people are just those who triumph through the failures and eventually live to talk about it, right? So
yes, exactly. And you never want to miss that. You always
no, not at all. And once you journey through it and you've done it repetitively, then you're considered to be successful. But it's really just overcoming the last failure. And I tell people all the time, like, I'm more afraid of my successes, because your successes, when you're on the top of the mountain, that's when you feel great and you kind of let off the gas, right? But if you look at race car drivers, there's no cruise control. They're constantly having to go, right? 500 laps. They got to keep pressing at it, going around hours at a time, little breaks here. Exactly, right? Little breaks here, little breaks there. And it doesn't matter how long someone's been racing. It just gives them a better, stronger, more qualified heart and endurance in the race to keep up to the end. Mm-hmm. And a successful person, the mindset of that person is like, listen, I've been here before, I failed before, I've done this before. I know I can do this because I have the other failures, the scars to show it that I've persevered through some previous failures to now get to this success. And now I want to do it again and again and again and again. So as you were sharing, I was just like, oh, what a champion. So I appreciate you and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Dr. Obom. Now, Dr. Obom, you've had an amazing journey. You've accomplished so much in your life. You had a Purple Heart, you were in the Marines, and being in the Marine also gives you the sense of discipline. It acquires you not just physically, but mentally. You have to have that discipline.
You do. The mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I always share it in success. In a lot of programs I teach, that discipline is the bridge between success and failure. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it, every single day, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you got up today. I'm sure whatever time you got up, you probably got your workout. You probably got your healthy breakfast or a snack in between and out to lunch to prepare for this interview. There's a couple of things that you have to do, and the discipline somewhere along the line today, from when you got up to now, something probably said, you know what, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do whatever. But it's that discipline that gives you that chance to be consistent in pursuing whatever it is that you're going to do, to continue doing your show. learn or ask with Alka, as you do this podcast, as you do more of these, there's going to be days where you don't want to do it, but you still have to get up and do it. And if you don't have the discipline every single day, crossing that bridge of discipline to really hold the two together, here's success, here's failure. Mm. You don't cross that bridge, then you're just going to be on the side of failure, right? And success is really just moving from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm, right? And discipline is the thing that holds that together the entire time.
Exactly. It's that glue.
It is. It really is.
That holds everything together. Now, yeah. Obom, we have known each other for a long time. It's been what, 4 or 5 years?
Well, actually, it's been about 6. It's going on. This is 2022.
It's 6 years. Wow. Where's the time gone?
Yeah, because when you think about it, it's about almost 2 years before our daughter was born, Miracle, and she's 4 now. So that's about 6 years.
Wow, that is amazing.
I know it's been a while.
Amazing. And Miracle, she's just grown absolutely beautiful. But I'm going to touch on Miracle, and I'm going to touch on when we talk about the environment. But as a decorated Marine, Dr. Obom, being in the Marine, a decorated Marine, you know, you served your life, and you've served. And you've seen every part of what people are doing. And when it comes to entrepreneurs, you've seen, you know, when you and Anna were in that moment when you lost everything, you were homeless. But what I want to touch on is not where people are today, whether you're rich, poor, you are homeless. That's not the conversation today. But what is the conversation is when I look at, and when I've read Think and Grow Rich, chapter 3, Desire. Now, when you and Anna were in that threshold where you didn't know as to where to make ends meet, how important was it that we need to have that desire? So what was that definite moment? What was that moment in your life, in your lives at that moment that made you both realize this was not the place that you wanted to be? There was something so much better out there.
Yeah, well, you know, it's well, you just took me back. But so before I jump into that, I'll say this though: if you don't, that desire is very, very strong and coupling. It's the pulling. So we're either pushed by pain, mm-hmm, or we're pulled by a vision. So that vision is your desire is drawn to that vision, right? Which will get you up. And you have to have the discipline enough every day to cross the bridge to go and accomplish the thing. But if you're not committed, you will never get started. So you have to be committed to that vision. You have to be committed to that desire. And if you're not consistent, you'll never finish. So for knowing, keeping that in mind with us, it wasn't both of us together. That spark moment wasn't both of us together. It was me first. It was me finding out what the vision was, because there were the times where my wife was like, listen, I'm done. This is not for me. I'm out of it. And we had, I would say, a very aggressive discussion, which we would call an argument, right? But in that discussion, right? So, in that discussion, I had told her, I says, listen, you've supported me through everything I've done. Mm-hmm. And now that I've chosen a field where I believe will bring us the desires of my heart for our benefit financially, spiritually, emotionally, you're telling me no. Well, you know what? Goodbye, see you, sayonara, we're done. And it's funny. So my wife looked at me. She paused. It was like a very awkward, minute. It seemed like it was an hour. It was only about a minute though. And she looked at me and she said, well, I was just testing you.
Oh no.
And I was like, 1-800 frustration. I kind of sat there and it's really this all of this was because you was testing me. And to this day, I don't know if it was true she was testing me, or it was just like at that moment she's like, well, he's really serious about this, so I guess I should support him. Either way, I would never know, but she never backed down and she joined in that moment. So for me, it was almost about 6 months into that process, believing, every day getting up, having the discipline, staying consistent, right? Showing up consistently with a good attitude over a long period of time. And that period of time when I was like really ready to go to the next level, that test and that commitment was put into question. That's when my wife was like, you know what? Nope, not going to happen. But from that moment on, she supported, and she was still supporting for about maybe 80%. She wasn't 100% in yet, right? So she
Okay.
was still supporting about 80%.
Still
Still,
testing.
still testing, right? And then right, but here's the deal: she tests, so does the universe, so that and I'm Christian in my belief. But and I tell people all the time, the moment you say something that you want to do, it's going to be tested. So God goes to work, the devil goes to work. Both of them are working to test you to see if that's something you really want to do. So it comes back to, if you're not committed, you won't start. And if you're not consistent, you won't finish. If you don't have the discipline, you won't get from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So understanding that, she put me to this test. She says, well, if you want me to support you in this, whatever we were doing at the time, she says, then you're going to have to do this. And I'm going like, I'm going to have to do this within 3 months. It was basically qualified for being in one of the top 1% of a company we were working with in the direct sales industry, to qualify for an all-inclusive paid trip, which I was working on doing for 5 years, and it didn't work. So she's like, if you want my support, you'll do it in the next 90 days. And I'm like, what?
Because that's a stress test.
Right? I'm telling you, that was the ultimate test. So now it's like, do I want it, and do I want my relationship? Well, obviously I proved her right, I guess. So when we qualified for the trip, and then 3 months after that, so 6 months later was when the trip actually happened. We're sitting in we're sitting at the pool, having a few drinks with the owner of the company, several other multimillionaires that I looked up to as some of the experts and some of my mentors for years. That I sat there and I had this realization, like, I'm finally here. And that weekend, a lot of the stuff that I've done, most of them give me some advice, which turned into my book. It was after that trip, and my wife says, that's it, I'm in. So it took basically an entire year. First, my 6 months of commitment to going, and then her tests and their tests, for her to say yes. And at that moment, that's when both of us kind of had that moment in. But from that day till this day, she's never questioned anything else or done anything else. And that was 17 years ago. So, she's given me the support. She spanked me when I needed it. And
which is a good thing sometimes.
Which is a very good thing.
Well, you know what? It is a good thing sometimes. We need that spanking to put
We
ourselves.
do.
We need that spanking to really, to not only to prove to ourselves, but to prove to our partner, and how much we are committed to achieving for both of us. And
Yeah.
Anna, she's absolutely wonderful. She's absolutely wonderful.
She is.
I've got
And when you go back to it, you have to look at, see, my personality, and that's what she's really good at. She studies sociology, which is behavior of groups of people, right?
Yeah.
And the group she grew up in were all athletes. My wife was an Olympic athlete, so she's a runner. She grew up as a runner. Her dad trained Olympic athletes. In fact, her pace runner was Desiree Linden, who's also become the first American woman to win the Boston Marathon since like 1936, right? She's a sponsored runner now. That's pretty much all she does. And my wife grew up in that environment where she's always pushing the limits, testing the limits. So for her, understanding my background as a Marine, very competitive, always got to be number one. So she was a number one. So she was basically just challenging and challenging and always challenging. Still to this day, still challenges me, right? So I probably won't. Exactly. I wouldn't have had a lot of the success or maintained it a lot if I didn't have someone that was that close, that was always pushing me, calling me out on my crap, to make sure that I stay to the promise and stick to it whenever I make it, because she's naturally competitive. So what she was doing was what she was taught to do, what she knew how to do. Right. As an athlete, she had a specific regimented discipline of what she ate, what she did. So it was great every day to get up and just be challenged by her still to this day. So, we still work out and do things together when we can, now that Miracle is in the picture. But so now we switch off schedules. Like, she goes early, I go after, or I go first and she goes after. So someone is still taking care of her. Or sometimes we'll go together and take the bob and just run or exercise or whatnot. But all the days start with the same basic disciplines.
That's amazing. And that's a great start. As two people who are competitive, she's been competitive as an athlete, you are competitive in your own space as a decorated Marine.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So it requires a lot of discipline.
It does.
But do you find though two people, because sometimes when two people are competitive, they can sort of butt heads. They don't, someone, a male or female, will not support one another. So do you find at times there can be that, people kind of like fall apart because they're kind of butting heads. They don't see each other's viewpoints?
Yeah, I find it a lot with many individuals, probably about 98% of the folks. You have to be able to figure out what between my wife and I, what was the struggle in the beginning, and she's not passive. She may seem that way. She's just a very good observer, and she measures things before she acts, right? So one of the things that worked for us very early on was being able to know our lanes. When it comes to like competing, we both know like I'm bigger, stronger, whatever, but we would still compete, right? To the level and degree that we can. But when we would run and compete together, I was like, all right, here's the deal. If we're going to do a 200 meter, you're going to start at like 25 or 35. So I had to work harder, which is almost like that disadvantage for a sprinter, right? So we compete at the level that we can. If we start together, then, I would tease her, do whatever, but we found our balance. And in business, our balance was more of, she's more of the person that understands her strength in the background. So 90% of me looking amazing and marketing and all this other stuff online, it's really my wife in the background with her strength. So we put her in her lane to support and make me look good like the shiny thing, because she doesn't like to be the one up front. Like even when she was running, she would run, the race is over, done. I don't want to be with the crowd. I'm gone. I did what I have to do. Me, I'm the person that would be there hanging around like, hey, high five everybody else. Yeah, let's talk about the next run. My wife's like, nope, run is over. I'm done. I'm gone. Right. So it's being able to understand your strengths and how to stay in your strengths. So I'm never that person that says, I want to work on my weaknesses. No, I want to find someone whose strength is my weakness and utilize that. So for my wife and I, her strength is really doing a lot of the administration, the logistics, the things that make it happen. Mine is be out there speaking, training, conducting when it comes to business. So I stay in my lane, she stays in her lane. We both are competitive. And when she does her best, it makes me do my best. When I do my best, it helps her best on the back end. But for us physically, we do the best we can to exhaust ourselves. That's how we compete. Like, how many did you do this time instead of just competing against each other? Because it's an unfair advantage depending on our individual build as an individual. So with so many athletic personalities or so many competitive personalities, husbands and wives can butt heads if they never get in the beginning what their strengths are and focus on those with each other instead of just competing all around.
Exactly. And I think coming back to that point is you need to have that understanding. I think that understanding needs to be talked about initially. What is my lane? What are my strengths? And what is your lane? What are your weaknesses? And what are your strengths? And when you figure that out, and you each other talk about it, I think communication, because Dr. Obom, you studied the mind. When it comes to the mind, you've studied when it comes to entrepreneurs, and so to understand each other it takes a lot. And
it does.
So the point that I'm trying to get to is, when people don't understand each other as to what are their lanes, where do they need to be on, so that the other person can really do what they're good at. As you said, your strengths are being out there. You're there in the front. You're there in the front line.
Exactly.
Doing your meetings and business, etc. And she's at the back.
Yeah, and she loves that. If she has to go up and speak, she'll constantly. If with a topic that has, let's say, 10 things to cover, I can easily cover that within an hour. She'll do it in 5 minutes, right? So it's just like, this is what it is, and this is what you do. My role would be being able to explain it and step by step, show you what to do, so it's easy to get. And For my wife, it's like, listen, in order to run your race and run an effective 3 miles, she'll tell you, well, hydrate, eat well, rest, and repeat.
Yeah.
That would be it. But when I'm telling you to eat nutritionally, I'll have to break down what you need to eat as a runner. Right? My wife will tell you, here are the 4 things you need to do. And that's it. I'm done. Right? So, because for her, the rest of it, eating healthy, is understood. It's what she's done all her life. Right. So she tend to think that's what everyone does or can do. It's like, all right, hey, just eat healthy. And so me with like, honey, what is eating healthy? So all these things I have to learn, because my background, I didn't grow up as an athlete. I grew up as a very heavyset kid before I joined the Marine Corps. And when I finally joined the Marine Corps, I worked out 2 to 3 times a day for 20 years. So I ate whatever I wanted. Right. Didn't matter. Then after I retired and started working out only once, I started putting on weight. Like, what's going on? Well, that's because you've eating whatever you want to eat. And my wife's been telling me for years, like, stop eating that stuff. It's not good for you. I'm like, oh, it's good. And then I start realizing, listen, I'm eating this. She's eating this. Right. We go out for dinner. I got, so much meat, and she's got salad, maybe, and salmon. And I'm looking at her plate. It's like 2 pounds, and mine is like 7. That's probably why, brother.
Right. I would say so too.
So it's understanding and being able for me to be, communication is really twice of observing and once really speaking, right? Speech is really only 7% of communication, right? We communicate more in our body language, tonality, all these things that we know. The speaking is not really communicating. That's just getting the message out. But sometimes we can say to someone, like, for example, I can say, you know what? If I'm upset, my wife says, I love you. She's like, no, you don't. Well, I communicated, I told you I love you, but the expression, the tonality, that says something different.
Different, yeah.
So it's my challenge had been for years learning how to communicate. And because my wife is such a good communicator, I learned a lot from her example. Now I'm an amazing communicator. And most folks think like, oh, yeah, it was always me. It wasn't always me. I learned from her.
Well, that's great. You know what's really good is that you pick up on cues, and I think that's important too, as husband and wife, or as partners, that you need to pick up on cues. So what someone has said, or what someone is saying, or what someone is experiencing, if the other person can know as to how they're feeling. So communication, I think everything stems from communication.
Yeah, and I think you're right that piece. I'm very observant, and a lot of that came from my time in the Marine Corps. What we did as basically an infantryman, most of my time, you have to observe the enemy, right? And know not literally what they're doing, but what they're doing. What is the intention from what they're doing, and how will that affect us? So it was being able to observe and then anticipate. And through observation and anticipation gives you a mode of how to actually act. So when I'm dealing in my relationship, it was the observation and anticipation of, like, if she's doing this or saying this, what is that going to lead to? And what kind of trouble am I going to get into if I don't pay attention?
I love that. What kind of trouble?
What kind of trouble am I going to get into?
Exactly. It's like, be aware, because you never know. It's like what someone is going to be, thinking as to what you're doing.
Exactly.
You're not doing what you're not doing. So,
yeah. No, I was going to say there. So I wrote, there's only 2 things you need to know about women. I figured them out completely. Number 1 is I don't know. And number 2 is I'm still finding out. So that's what.
Exactly. I think that goes a long way as to what, what people really need to, is just understand. And the more understanding that we have, I think we're going to be in a good place. But Dr. Obom, the point that I want to also touch on is because we know our potential, and working with entrepreneurs and working with the mind, I think the mind is the most complex. The mind is.
It is.
And as people is understanding one another is very complex. But the point that I want to make is we all know our potential. We know where we want to go. We know our potential. But quite often when we are faced with challenges, adversities and challenges, in your opinion, do you feel that there are stepping stones that we need to get to our greatness? What do you think?
Yeah, so kind of taken back. I'm actually just finished writing a chapter on this in my new book. This is why Christians are broke. About that same piece of potential and how we get to the next level, especially for entrepreneurs, right? We're all born with the same God-given potential, which means we all have the ability to do whatever. And what one person did, another can do. But the same very things we spoke about in the beginning, so that potential, each of us are born with the same potential. If you think of your brain as this computer, when you bring a new computer program, it comes with a base program. And so the base program for us is all the emotions and things that we would experience. So we come with that core programming. From that point on, everything we learn is what we collect and store. And what we collect and store as data is how we're going to perform as a human being, as a person, as an individual. Whatever programs you download on that computer is effectively what that computer can do. So here you have one person who's collected and stored enough information, specialized knowledge on investing. So they can go out and invest. They're not going to invest and do great in the first. Like for you, I know one of your focuses has been real estate as of recent. So you're spending a lot of time on real estate. You've learned a lot. You've had some disappointments, but you're continuing to go and grow and go and grow and go and grow. And you're starting to have little wins, bigger wins, better wins. You're receiving coaching and counseling, and it's been almost a year. If you continue that for 5 years, that's about 10,000 hours of putting into that specialized knowledge, which makes you the expert, right? Malcolm Gladwell wrote about it in his book, Outliers. The second chapter talk about the law of 10,000 hours. So right now you're putting in your 10,000 hours to be the master in that space of real estate and real estate investing and all these things. So now you have another person who would have zero experience that wants to come and do what you're doing after your 10,000 hours, which is unfair. Though they have the potential to do it, they still, to do it as effectively as you, they still need to go through the 10,000 hours and do it, or they could hire you to help them do it, which would bring down their learning curve. And this is where people fail most of the times. They want to do exactly what you're doing, but they don't know your struggle. They don't know your background. They don't know your 10,000 hours. Though they have the same potential, most of them are not willing to have the discipline every day to do what you did to get what you got. So it kind of takes them back. It's disheartening. They now go through the failures. They lose enthusiasm, so they never finish. And the huge difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is successful people finish what they start.
Right.
That's really all it is. Even though we all have the same potential to do the exact same things, it all depends on what program we put into ourselves, what specialized knowledge we put into ourselves. Right? In the Christian faith, right, in the Bible, God says, listen, my people suffer for the lack of knowledge.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not anything else but the lack of knowledge. So it's like, if you don't know how to earn or generate $1 million a year, then you will never generate $1 million a year.
True. Yes.
Right? Because if you earned $1 million in a calendar year and someone took that money from you, the knowledge you have will send you to go back and do it again.
That's right.
Right? So it is right. So you're in that process as a realtor, going through and becoming that person. You're putting in your 10,000 hours, and when you're the master in that space, someone say, "Well, oh, it's so easy. Like I can do it." Well, no, not really. Right? Even though you have the potential, then they'll say, well, Alka, it's so easy for you. And then you say, well, not really. You weren't there when I had these tenants that did this, that did X. I lost this amount of money. That Y happened. And I still continue to pursue. You weren't there when I thought I was going to get this much and it was that much. And then tenants took me to court, wanted to sue because of this and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, I continued. I stayed the course. I got coaching. I got mentorship. I learned a few things from those who put in their 10,000 hours, and then it finally hit. So now anything in the space I could deal with. It's not that easy, but it
It's
is simple.
it's not that easy. You're right. There's so much that goes into it, and people don't realize that where you are today, Dr. Obom, where you are today, an accomplished entrepreneur, an accomplished, a decorated Marine, and you accomplish, and you're still accomplishing. You're still riding, doing amazing right now.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
that's
there's no stopping.
and absolutely, and there's no stopping, exactly, and you shouldn't, but the point that really sets people apart is also knowing that the potential that we all have, but it's also in our perspectives, because
It is.
right, because some person might say, well, I can't do this, and then the other person might say, well, I can do this, I'm doing this, and I've done amazing, I've got 10 properties.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Obama, do you find that in everything that people, what they are doing and what people are striving for, that is in the perspective of how we see ourselves, of who
Yeah, it is in the perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah, because listen, leaders are born out of crisis. So when you look at it, for example, so my grandfather on my father's side was Chinese. I studied Cantonese, studied the Chinese culture and language. There's no word in the Chinese language for the word like crisis. Um, the way they see crisis, the best English translated word is opportunity. So
Right.
where we see crisis, oh, it's bad, I can't do it. The Chinese see opportunity. We can be mad at them. Look at this is why China's taking over the world, because every crisis is an opportunity for them. Right? So, right. So that perspective is different because of how they were programmed to see opportunities. There's no such word in their vocabulary. All they see is an opportunity. Now, here's the person that says, well, here's what's going on in the world. Like, man, it's bad. The leaders show up and they understand that in this crisis lies an opportunity. Every business is to fix a problem. There is no business that started without a problem. The business must solve a problem. That crisis has to have a solution. So business owners, entrepreneurs, which it's a French word in its originality, which means one who takes risk, they're the person taking the risk, going to solve the problem, fixing the crisis for a fee. That's a business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that takes care of that piece. They're stepping up to be that leader. And here's the deal. We all have the potential to be a leader. We all have the potential and the ability to study and do the same things. What makes you different than me is what you've studied. What makes me different from you is what I've studied. But it's not just the study, it's the application.
It's the application.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's information, knowledge, and wisdom. Information is what you take in. Knowledge is what you gain when you take it in. Wisdom is what you get after you take action on that knowledge. That's the difference.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. Exactly. And if we don't implement on that, well, then we are lost.
Exactly.
Because we are either not willing to take the knowledge, the application, which is very important. So, brings me to the point of entrepreneurs. Now, as entrepreneurs, what in your mind defines a great entrepreneur from a good entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur that is taking massive actions? What is, because the leaders are leaders born, or are you born a leader, or are you created into a leader?
Yeah, all leaders are developed because we're all born with the same abilities. And that leader is that person who is really the person that gets ticked off about something and is willing to stand up and take action for it, and then lead others. Leaders provide courage where there's cowardice. Leaders provide direction where there's none. They provide a vision where no one has a vision, right? They provide direction where someone is lost. That's what leaders do. But they aren't born with it. It's one of those things where they look around and it's like, listen, one of us has got to lead this thing. One of us has got to do this thing to step out. So when you're looking at, in a sense, the baby entrepreneur to the matured entrepreneur, it's just the same as a child and an adult. That adult entrepreneur is the one entrepreneur that's comfortable with risk, because the word itself means one who takes risks. So after you start taking risks, you start failing, you start realizing what works and what doesn't work. Well, the longer you become an entrepreneur and you stay in the space instead of going to get a safe, secure job, is you now get into what's called a hypothesis of opportunities, which a hypothesis, as you know, is an educated guess. So whenever you, as an investor, you look at an investor deck for a property, from what it costs for the property, what it's going to cost for repairs, what it's going to cost for cash flow, and what's going to be for profit, right? So the average person might look, hey, I like this house because it looks real nice. And they might buy the house because it looks real nice, it's a real nice area. But with you looking at, listen, when was this house built? What's the foundation? What does it look like for cash flow? They might look and it has this real nice interior and they like it and they buy it. But you look at it and you have it inspected and it's like, listen, this thing is rotting from the inside out. It's going to cost me so much money to repair it over. That's probably not a good place just because it looks great, but it was built in the Elizabethan era, so it's about to fall apart. But with you, it's like, listen, if you're selling me this thing for 100,000, you need to break it down to 50 because it's going to cost me 75 alone just to put it in. So I'm already going to be 25 over. So you're taking a hypothesis on that with someone just said, well, this is so pretty. And if you do that the first time, you realize like, oh man, I guess I should have known. So the next time you do it, you'll learn. You'll look at another house and you'll say, well, the last time I did this, this is what I found out. Well, here's what I need to know about this, and this. And this. And the longer you go, the more detailed you become. So then you look at all your deals and you create your own standard operating procedure of how you will build a list. So the baby entrepreneur is the entrepreneur that's going to rush in, right? And go there and they learn. The senior entrepreneurs, the one who've already learned, and they know they have a system by which they put everything, in a sense, through a lens or through a funnel to come through to look at a deal, to look at an offer, to look at an opportunity. It's not just pure emotions. It's now measured. And through that measurement gives them the understanding of, listen, if I want to do this, I'm no longer emotionally attached. Now I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm looking at if this is going to be a cash flow decision or it's going to be a hobby. And hobbies cost you money, but businesses gain you profits, right? So,
they sure do. And you want to be in the line of profits.
Exactly.
Creating the wealth. But with wealth, I mean, it comes with time. So people need, right? It needs to be time. And so, Dr. Obom, you've amassed so much success, which is what I wanted to have you come on and share with our viewers as to the success that you've had and what that truly feels like, because success comes, but success can go easily as well if we are not careful, right? If we're not careful. Could you walk through those steps that you have seen in your life from where you had started? You have been in the Marine Corps. How has that affected your life today? How do you see your life today? It's a two-part question. How do you see your life today, and where do you see your life going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, thank you. So, man, well, how did it all start?
Question.
Yeah, right. That's a question that I have to go back into some reflection here to answer that question. But I'll put it this way: break it down into three categories, right? So there's poor, rich, and wealthy, and poor in the poor mindset. Right, doesn't necessarily mean poor as in like fine. The poor mindset, and where I was there in the beginning, everything was first focused on money. It was all money, 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 money. Right? Poor people always talk about money. Rich people talk about things. Hey, look at my house, look at my car, look at my boat, look at my plane, look at my jet, look at my this. Hey, right? It's all the things that they've done. And wealthy people talk about ideas, because literally it's ideas that create and print money. The wealthy person is the person that actually sees a forest inside of a seed. Right? Most people don't have the ability to see even the tree inside of a seed. But the wealthy person sees, how do they see the forest? They see the seed, and they know that if they plant the seed, it becomes a tree that springs fruit, that has more seeds, that plants to become, right? And they see the forest inside of the seed. So the wealthy person is the person that understands the vision, knows how to expand it, extrapolate it, and then utilize it to gain more. So they focus more on ideas. We're here on this Zoom platform, which was an idea someone had. And when COVID hit, Zoom became the #1 platform in the world. It was like literally like number 17,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so the idea that they took and they ran with it because they were already prepared. They saw a world eventually being able to use this, but COVID hit, and immediately there was nothing that was there. Skype was good, but Skype didn't have to do the power to do what they did, and they started adapting as they went. Now they're creating a next generation, all kinds of stuff around it. So for me, in my process, I got through the struggle of where everything was all about the money and couldn't get enough. But the thing is, when you seek and you pursue money, you never get enough of it.
Right.
Right. Fortunately, I got to that point where you have a lot of money, go to shopping, or buy just about every color of the same shirt. I had them all. The house we live in, I told you that we're actually selling now. It's been for 10 years. All it became was a huge storage unit for stuff, right? Recently, we just gave away, I can't tell you how much stuff to Goodwill and
I'm sure you did.
right? Just giving stuff away because I got past that money and the second part of things, right? I've had the exotic cars and the other stuff. That stuff means nothing to me now. If I wanted, I could go rent it and use it or lease it, whatever. And where I'm going is kind of in the transition of where I'm at because now it's ideas. Whereas in life for me, my form of giving back is we help entrepreneurs create purpose-driven businesses, right? So that they can have what we call purpose-driven paydays. That's for them to take their ideas, their intellectual property, turn it into something. We take them through a 5-step process. That idea into what's called your standard operating procedure, or here, listen, for the average entrepreneur, your book. That turns into a course, that turns into a workshop, a seminar, a mastermind. Now you have different streams of income from the same idea, right? So wealthy people focus on ideas. If it's just, there's a project where I'm investing in Dubai, that was an idea. It is a green living facility. It's an extremely large financial project, but there's several of us who had that idea. So now I'm in that space. But for me, where I'm going to next is my wife and I want our daughter to experience history, not to learn history, but experience it. So we're traveling for the next, 3 to 5 years. That's where we're going, because now I'm past the money, the things. I'm into the ideas, because the ideas is what changes tomorrow. If you carry it tomorrow, you get the idea today, and you work it out until it happens.
Absolutely, and I love that. It's pretty much you need to have a vision. Wealthy people have visions. They're visionaries.
Always.
Right?
Always.
Absolutely. And so by having success and the successes that you have amassed, Dr. Obom, is just absolutely fantastic. It's just phenomenal to, when I've seen your growth and
thank you.
And where you've been on your journey is just so inspirational. So as a visionary, that's what successful people are always looking to. They're always looking for one idea. They have an idea and they're looking for, the brains are always working. They have like 10 ideas coming in the forefront. So always. And so Dr. Obom, now you are doing retreats. So as you look at your life, is the retreats more of a focus that is going to be like more of a central focus that you want to enjoy the life right now with with Anna?
Yeah, so that's a part of it. But speaking of which, like this. So this book, this here.
Yeah.
My wife gifted this to me 9 years ago.
Okay.
And it says, some people dream of success while others wake up and work hard at it.
Wow, I love that.
So, this I keep all the time. I said, this is my ideas book, right? Still have it. In here was my, which my first $1 million check.
Oh, I like that.
Another gift from my wife. That was her telling me, like, you need to go do it, right? So it's not that I'm that smart, right? It's just I got great encouragement. So this in this entire book, this is the most valuable thing that I have, because inside of this book there's ideas in here since the year she gave it to me,
right,
to this date. Now probably about a third of these we have acted upon, created, accomplished, and there's still more to go.
That's
right?
amazing. Wow.
So it's being able to keep that at hand and have those ideas, and I have some ideas that are completely thought out that I've not yet even jumped into. It's peace for myself to sometimes find the right person to build a business, which is why I have lots of business partners, because some of these ideas, I have them all full, but I don't have the time and day and energy to do it. So I'd rather have a business partner work out a agreed upon. And for me, I have three different business agreements I use, which is 10, 30, or 50%, depending on the level that I need to be involved in the company to operate. Many of those ideas have become other companies. But when you ask about those retreats, it's a passion of mine. The reason we love to do those is it gives us about 4 days to spend, depending on which one it is. If we do the ones that are like our entry level, it's 4 days. We do the ones that are mastery level, is an entire week. So we get either 4 days or an entire week with you, immersed away from the rest of the world without the distractions of life and this and that, all this other craziness. Right. So we can get someone, in a sense, hyper focused and compressed timeframes onto whatever the vision is for them to get them where they need to be. And the thing that some people understand, you have to think like, I got to have this one grand vision. And the truth is, your vision will always change at every level. And at every level, you get closer to the vision. So for example, let's say your vision is 100%. When you get to 25%, it changes again, because now you have a different awareness. Your mind have expanded. You now will expand that vision. So you will die accomplishing your vision. You will never achieve it. You will achieve parts of it because it'll continue to morph. And the truth is, you should never, because every time you grow, it should expand. If it doesn't expand, it's just showing that the contraction of your mind is settling for mediocre.
So you reach a plateau that it doesn't allow you to. It's
exactly.
Like as well. It doesn't allow you to go any further, perhaps.
In a sense. So, for example, if your vision is 100 steps, when you get to 10, you need to stretch it out to another 100. So you're never catching that 100. When you do get to that first 100, though, you're still 100 in front of you, but now you're working on the second 100, but it's still always 100. So if your goal, some people say like, my goal is to do 100 push-ups. If I could only do like 50 push-ups, if my goal is to do 100. So you know that now you have to go past 50 twice to get to that goal. Well, once you get to that 100, it's no longer your goal. You've accomplished it. Do you stay at 100? Just do 100? Because the muscle doesn't grow and get stronger after 100.
Right.
Now it's 110. To give 100%, some people say, well, if my goal was 100% and I do 200 push-ups, did I do 200%? No, you did 100%. 100% is always the best that you can do. There is no such thing as 110%, 120%. It's stupid. For the folks who are like, man, I give 110. No, you don't. You gave 100% for the first time. Right? That's what that is.
Let's leave it at that.
Let's just leave it there.
I know it's 100%. No, I'm just saying is that 100% is where people max. That should be the max, right? That should be the max.
That is the max.
Absolutely. And that's the max, and that's where we reach. So as you take Miracle, and she's turning 4, she's 4 now.
She's 4 now, yeah.
She's growing so beautifully.
Thank you.
I've seen her pictures. So as you take Miracle, and now that you and Anna and Miracle are traveling more now, as you've sold your home, and you're taking Miracle. And what I love absolutely is your environment, because our environment is nothing but our looking glass. And I absolutely love this, what Bob talked about, that your environment is nothing but your looking glass. And for Miracle, for Miracle to experience everything that you, Dr. Obom, that you have accomplished. She's watching you, because kids, they watch. They're like sponges.
They do.
They absorb and watch everything, whether it's good or bad that adults are doing, but they absorb and they watch that. So for Miracle, and watching you, the seminars that you put on with these amazing entrepreneurs, how important is developing the mind of a young child? How important is your mind, their mind, to their success in life?
Absolutely. That's such a wonderful question. And we are 100% committed to her development, to becoming the best version she can be.
Right.
And we always say, environment is stronger than willpower. So keeping her in the environment, to go deeper into that, it's, if you hang around 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th. because that's how they think, the actions. And you might think like, you know what, I'm the smartest in the group, so it doesn't really matter. But what you don't realize is you're not being stimulated by growth. You're being stimulated by decrease. So you don't see the unconscious decreases you're having. You hang around 9 people who smoke, you're the 10th with lung cancer. Even you don't have to smoke, right? But you'll have lung cancer too. So the effects will happen for you. And it's the same way if you hang around 9 positive people, you're the 10th. Same thing. So with her, she has a chance to hang around nothing but positive, driven individuals from birth. An example of just so her and I was in the bed when my wife and I, we switch off, like I told you earlier in the mornings, right? So my wife came back to switch with me and her. So she came back, she gave me a kiss, and then she gave Miracle a kiss, and so Miracle grabbed her by the head, back of the head, and she goes, "Yes, kiss Dad. You remember he's your husband, right?" Right. So right. So these are the things that she's observing and going. It's just like, because she kissed her and she was actually going to go and spit, right? Whatever, because she just came back from working out. And she's like, "Okay, give me a second, let me go spit." She's like, "No, kiss him now."
That's so sweet.
Right, but understanding that for every computer, garbage in, garbage out. If you put good in, good come out. So when you were talking about her watching me actually teach and train, I was doing an event last December, and she was sharing everything I was sharing. Now, for the average child, it would have just been like repeating. Now, I'm very passionate when I teach. And as I was teaching, I said a bad word. The bad word was shit, right? And she was repeating everything I said. Yes. And she says, "Dad, you said a bad word," right? So she's repeating everything I said up until we got to that point. Like when I said the word shit, and she was like, "Dad, you said a bad word." So I apologized, and then I corrected myself and moved forward. In there, I was showing her, number one, I respect what you're saying because I taught you that was bad and I did it, so forgive me. So at home, we call her the vocabulary police. When we say stuff, she'd be like, "Mom, Dad, that's a bad word," right? The other day, and one of the things that we do is if we curse or something, and she said, "That's a bad word," and she comes over, we'll give her our hands and she'll smack our hands, right? What we're teaching her is more than anything else, it's mirrored respect. Respect is gained, right? Respect is earned. It's not just taken. But how many parents would probably say a bad word? The kids tell them it's a bad word because they told the kid it's a bad word. And then they would tell the kids, like, "Shut up," right? It's like, I'm an adult. So when you do that, you start to take away the trust between you and that child in that relationship. Yeah. So what we're teaching her is how to have that equal trust, how to have that respect, so she can listen to what mom and dad says and still respect it. If we didn't say something bad, we're also teaching her the emotional discipline as a woman to speak her mind, to speak her truth. So if we do something, she's able to come to us and we have a conversation about it. If we like it or not, I was like, "You know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I'll fix it." Right? But she knows this. This is what she's learning. So as she gets older, her conviction in that gets stronger. As she gets older, she knows now how to demand from another person the respect that she deserves. She doesn't have to cower, right? So what we're developing is we're developing a leader. And what people will say when she get older is like, "Man, she's a born leader." No, she's not. She's been developed as one, and she's taken on the mantle as a leader. She's taken that leadership because she sees it and demonstrate it by example. Now, kids, we teach them everything they know from birth to 4 years old is when they actually stop listening and pay attention. They only follow what they see.
Yeah.
So now at 4 years old and above, she's watching more than anything else. Her brain is developed. She's listening to what we're saying. She's seeing what we're doing. And if we tell her to do X and don't do it, that's hypocrisy. And she sees it. And if we don't correct ourselves or let her correct us, then all we're doing is building into that hypocrisy. So it's really important to keep her in the right environment, to teach her the right things, but most importantly, hold ourselves accountable to the same rules.
I absolutely love that. And I think it's so important that because it's those in those formative years from birth to 4 years that a child develops mentally, they absorb everything. They're like sponges.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Obom, this has been such an amazing conversation, so enlightening.
It has. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I'm so glad that, we could, share this conversation with the viewers so that it is very important because and absolutely parents, they ignore, like you said, parents, they tell the kids to shut up.
Yeah.
But why would you ignore what the child has said?
Exactly.
Don't stop.
What happens is that the child has no filter, and you pour all of this into the child, telling them this is the standard by which we're supposed to live.
Mhm.
And then when you don't walk the straight line, you punish them for correcting you. That doesn't make sense.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. But life sometimes doesn't, and life doesn't always walk, it's not always a straight line. You got to go through curves.
Yeah, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. But the deal is, if you want a rainbow, you have to go through the rain. It has to rain first.
Well, you have to. You got to find the rain.
Yeah, right. So the folks who don't like the rain is because they got caught without an umbrella. If they had an umbrella, they'd be okay, right?
And they might see the rainbow.
Exactly. They might enjoy the rainbow.
Exactly. They might enjoy it, and they might see that golden pot.
Exactly. Right. But they're so upset because they got wet by the rain, caught off guard without the umbrella. And listen, enjoy the rain, run from it. Listen, you stand in a shower twice a day, or at least I do, right? Twice a day you get a shower. What's wrong with an extra one? There's nothing wrong with it. Your clothes can dry. We have a dryer.
Exactly. I love dancing in the rain. But, this has been such an amazing conversation. And friends, this conversation has been so amazing, so enlightening. Thank you for joining and tuning in to Ask the Experts with Alka. Today's conversation has been about mindset, challenges, adversities that you face in your life. What can you do? Do not give up on those hopes. Dr. Obom, my good friend, has been through those challenges and adversities, but has amassed a lot of accomplishments, has accomplished so much today. And Dr. Obom, I want to thank you for coming on and truly enlightening us with your knowledge, that what you are doing today is just absolutely phenomenal. And I just can't wait for more to come, what you and Anna are going to be doing. So I want to thank
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's such an honor to be here. And I forgot how so much fun it is once we get talking, how the time can fly. So I appreciate you always. Yeah, what an engaging conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, Dr. Obom, where can people find you? Where can they learn more about you? I've read your book. Today is the day. A phenomenal book, friends. If you
Thank you.
want to buy the book, today is the day. A phenomenal book. So, Dr. Obom, where can people find you? They want to get in touch.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways you can see on if you're an Instagrammer, you can go at Dr. Obom Bowen on Instagram, or just Obom Bowen on Facebook. Find me there. But theunderdogmillionaire.com is our main business website. You can go there. It tells you about all of what we do. I had such a blast connecting here. If any of you want to connect, you can also find me on Alka's favorite Facebook page. We're friends, so just find me.
There you go. There you go. So fantastic, friends. We truly appreciate you watching and tuning in today's episode with Dr. Obom Bowen, a decorated Marine who has an amazing entrepreneur, amassed so much success, what he is accomplishing today, and him and his family, amazing, beautiful family, and Miracle, their daughter. So do stay tuned for more episodes that I'm talking to and bringing on amazing superstar entrepreneurs who are making a difference in their lives today. So stay tuned for more episodes, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.